Welcome back to another episode of Leaders and Founders. Today I'm joined by Sergio Zavota, who is co-founder at NutriCoach, and we'll be discussing all things AI today.
Thank you for having me, Jack.
No worries, Sergio. Did you want to give everybody a little bit of an intro on yourself and your background initially?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Sergio, as you already said, and I've been in the data and AI space for quite a long time. I did my uni back in Italy, graduated in the AI space, and started working in that until now, I would say. And currently, I'm co-founder and CTO of NutriCoach, so we're building something related to the space, hopefully following the good practices that we're going to discuss today. And worked with many financial services companies and also more cross-industry companies as well. And now, hopefully, I can give you some good highlights on the things to be done.
Sounds good to me. I guess, first of all, let's start, big picture view. Everybody's talking about AI at the moment and seem to think it's either going to take all of our jobs, destroy the world, or solve all of our problems. What do you think people are getting very wrong with their thoughts around AI at the moment?
So I think AI is this phase of AI has been here for quite a long time, but this phase of AI, the ChatGPT era, let's say from 2022, can be seen as an actual revolution in a way. The things we used to do before are not the same, can be done in an extremely easy way now. However, even though it's got revolutionary potential, people are basically going beyond these revolutionary capabilities and they expect even more. And I think the wrong way to see it is that they see it something that is here already crafted, ready to use to let's make the revolution, industrial revolution, and so on. However, it's more like an evolution that moves to that. So we need to experiment, we need to build because the landscape is very immature. It's just 4 years old, 3 years old, and we need to make it happen. And I can tell you about the revolutionary part based on what I personally witnessed it. Back in uni, I was doing my master's thesis around the person job fit problem, which is just a fancy way to say you've got a job offering, you've got a lot of applications. What's the best application given the job offering? And I remember I had to manually label the curriculums of like 2 weeks and say, this is a university, this is it, this is that, and I was just going mad. It was also COVID time, so I'll let you imagine doing that with all the nice things happening.
Kept you busy,
at the moment.
Huh? It kept you busy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what happened was that eventually I came up with a decent AI-based tool to solve this problem with a lot of effort, with a lot of months spent. And when ChatGPT came out, like 2022, I did this in 2021, so 1 year after, I tried the same. I tried to say, okay, let's see if it can get it without doing anything. I just put a job offering in ChatGPT. I say, rank those 10 job applications. It did it correctly in like a few seconds. And I thought, okay, many things are gonna change. And second, I could have spared 2 months of my life labeling.
Banging your head against the wall now.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's an interesting point there, because that evolution, obviously using ChatGPT, it's trained on huge data sets already. That hard work's done for you. I think that's often overlooked by people, that you need to have that data and have put in that work to be able to have these transformative AI models. And sometimes people just think saying, oh, let's use AI without understanding what their current situation in their business looks like. So if somebody's looking at AI at the moment from a business perspective, thinks, let's implement it, what would you say they should be looking at to assess whether they are ready?
Absolutely. Great question. So you said it right. LLMs, large language models, are trained on the whole internet in a nutshell. Now, you can do things with AI in a pretty easy way, as long as you don't need to plug LLMs with external data, with your company data, for example. Now, the range of use cases that don't need your internal data for enterprises is kind of limited. Most of the time, you want to leverage your personal enterprise data. And that's where things are start to get tricky, because the LLM is trained on the internet data, but is not trained or it's not used to see in a way your company data. And what happens many times, based on my personal experience with companies, is that they overlook that in a way that, okay, it works on the internet data, why can't it work seamlessly with our small subset of 3,000 or 30,000 documents? Well, it can't. That's the, not out of the box at least, that's the sad truth. So what I've realized is that many companies overlook that, as you say, they just plug the data, because now we got a lot of connectors. Now, if your data is on SharePoint or Confluence, there are easy out-of-the-box tools that you can plug and play. However, I challenge the companies to say, does it work? Are those connectors really good? Because the shape of the data and the structure of it is so important at this stage in time that affects everything else. And I'm gonna say the usual boring saying of garbage in equals garbage out, because that's an evergreen truth. And from 2022 to 2025 now, I've constantly been seeing that this legendary quote is always correctly applied for some reasons. So we are not at a stage where LLMs can understand very well a lot of our data without doing any effort. We need to tackle down on that and basically understand our data in a very precise way and create mechanisms that say, okay, this is our set of 30,000 documents. Whenever we ask a question, for example, we need to make sure the documents are correctly retrieved, and you can't do it without experimenting.
So would you say for a lot, not necessarily for a lot of business, but I think there's quite a few out there, that they should be looking at this as a data problem first before looking at, oh, we need to use AI to solve this?
Two sides. I think the data problem is the first thing to look when you build a solution. But before that, you need to look at the problem. Do you really have a problem? Can you define it? Who are your users? And I think this is another overlooked and crucial phase. And I'm not sure why it's being overlooked so much, because this is basically sticking to the basics. So when you want to create a solution, you first define the problem. And now LLM, Gen AI is new, generative AI is new, so we don't know how to do many things, but we know how to phrase a problem and how to come up with a solution in some sort of accurate way. So all the things that the experimentation framework, the scientific method about defining the problem, creating an hypothesis, experimenting, involve the end users, another very important part. They're there, but it's in this phase, it seems that the FOMO is so big that you just cut it and say, oh, let's plug this stuff and let's automate things.
If people are doing that, how can they find what their problem is? If they're struggling, they think they might have a problem, how can they be clear as to whether they've actually identified a good problem?
Yeah, so I've started my career very recently in the startup world. And I don't see, when ideating and defining the problem and solution, I see the same rules and the same best practices that we apply in a startup to define the problem and come up with a solution can be applied anywhere else. So if you have a big enterprise and you want to understand if AI can help you, you use the same tools, which basically means, as I said before, define the problem. How do you define the problem? Well, you talk to users, to customers, right? So if it's an internal tool, all of your employees are potentially your customers. The thing maybe that is new is that now these are new technologies. So both of you, both the ideator and the customer, have to understand how AI can help. So you need to have foundational knowledge. Hence, you have to have an expert in Gen AI, generative AI. And the easiest thing that comes up to my mind is, hello, let's talk with this team. Let's bring the senior people of the team, but also the non-senior, the engineers, for example, if you're looking at that department. And let's bring the generative AI expert, as much as someone can be called an expert in this area, but that's for another story. so that you have the potential customers who can tell you about your problems, and you have the person who's able to translate that and to guide the discovery phase by saying, okay, what's the most boring thing that you do, or do you find in your work something that really struggle and takes you out of your time? So you need to guide people in understanding how the problem they might have, and you need to be owner also of the. You need to understand the problem statement and the problem scope. So if you look into the engineering team, then you book a meeting with them, a few seniors, one or two engineers as well, and you bring this sort of jolly AI engineer who's able to translate problems, and you see if there are actually good cases as to why you want to leverage AI.
Yeah, because I think people can think they have a good use case. It's not cheap to do, is it? And it's not cheap to run. So it needs to either save some money, save some time, or increase revenue for a business.
Yeah, that's another pain point, I would say.
Yeah.
So justifying the business value. And I would say that many times I wouldn't use that as a metric, because again, generative AI is 3 years old. Sort of software engineering is 40 plus years old. Whilst we sort of understand how to bring value out of software engineering, traditional software engineering, are you sure that generative AI can bring that much value? Or is it something, or can you see from another perspective? Can you see from a perspective where you say, we start to, I want to be an early adopter first. So you set yourself expectations, and you create cases and start to evolve. Again, you create that evolutionary phase towards the revolution. And if you go towards that path, it's not say that that use case is actually going to bring immediate value, but you can see the value like, okay, we're going to unlock this use case. I can also give you an example. But this is going to be for this use case number 2, which ultimately in 2 years' time will bring the real value. So again, that's the revolutionary part, given the immaturity, subtle things of the field that makes it difficult to estimate the business value.
It can be tough to have that conversation if you're kind of reporting back to board within your organization. There can be an expectation from them of clear timelines of how that value is going to be delivered. So like you say, if it's 2 years off, it can be hard to get that buy-in from them and show them the value of it.
Absolutely. And I think here it's about putting everyone on the same page. It's about setting expectations and talking with the upper management and the board in order to first educate them if they're not, so that they can really understand what things are at the moment. Because if they expect that we can deliver Gen AI in one day and bring billions of revenue by cost saving or anything else, that's not good, right? But that comes from education. So it's about setting everyone on the same page first, and then trying to understand how the company is positioned toward generative AI, because you might not even be an early adopter. You might even say, it's okay for me, I'm just going to see how the market matures. There are trade-offs of this. The trade-off, the benefit is of being an early adopter is that you can experiment and be ahead of the market, right? Having a competitive advantage. The bad part, the cons, is that, of course, you're going to have to spend money and fail and accept the failure and continuously do this. But if the board and upper management doesn't understand this, it's difficult to create a good narrative and a roadmap around Gen AI in the company.
It's an interesting point you mentioned about early adopter. I was recently using, I'm with O2, or was with O2 as a phone service provider. They've got my O2, their AI assistant chat, and it's dreadful. But I think they've had it for quite a few years. So they were obviously an early adopter of these AI chatbot assistants. But if you compare it now, I think a few years ago, you would probably have thought, oh, it's quite good. But now our expectations are so high that it's dreadful to use. How can you make sure you're future-proofing?
Ooh, can you elaborate on future-proofing?
Yeah, I guess it's moving so quickly and evolving so quickly. AI is a like what is possible and the quality of what's being delivered. So some chatbots now are very good online customer service assistants. Whereas if you were an early adopter a few years ago, you're probably looking at it now thinking, we need to overhaul this. How can you make sure that what you're building is possible to upgrade in the future and isn't going to be looked as archaic in a couple of years' time?
I think you can't escape from that first. So if you build something right today with the current LLMs, with the current agentic frameworks that are here, and you don't constantly upgrade this, and you don't constantly work on this, in 2 years' time, I would say in 1 year time even, that stuff is going to become deprecated in a way. So I think the trick here is not stopping to that. Again, it's an immature world. The things you're building now are going to be deprecated soon because of the fast pace and because, again, of the big potential that we have. So one thing is, if you really want to do it, set yourself expectations where you continue to invest in that. You can't build it and stop it, because tomorrow we could have a new big large language model, even though the current landscape doesn't say so, but never say never, right? We could have a new big LLM, we can have a new framework, we can have a new company that directly replaces your small idea made with a team of 4 people. So, and this is where you should consider yourself. So do you want to be an early adopter? If so, you need to start to build, continuously evolve, and accept that in 1 year time, someone might have created something bigger because of more resources, more people, more insights, and so on.
Yeah, and I think you've seen now so many companies that are an AI company, but they've kind of put a wrapper on another LLM solution, and within an update's time, your whole company is just wiped out.
That's an interesting take, because I think those GPT wrappers, as they call it, are fascinating in a way where if the problem is a solid problem, and if the solution they build really solves the problem, first, it doesn't matter how easy it is to do, and second, I think that if you continue to build that solution as a startup, right, owner, and you investigate on the problems and the insights and so on, your solution matures and evolves, so that when Apple or Microsoft or the Google come in, we say, okay, now Gemini can do everything.
Yeah.
And now LinkedIn, you say, in 2020, in 2030, 96% of the AI-based startup would be doomed, and things like that. Yeah, I agree that's inevitable, but this is a competitive market. So again, the trick here is it's okay to create a ChatGPT wrapper. It's okay to create a startup out of this. Don't stop there. Continue to build and to evolve so that your solution becomes unique and difficult to replace because of the insights you get from the customers.
Kind of like, don't ignore the fundamentals of building a company.
Yes.
AI, again, isn't just the solution for everything. Yes. You need to make sure you have strong foundations, listening to your customers being a big one. What would you say are some of the best use cases of AI you've seen potentially internally for businesses?
I would say internally is the first thing that came up to my mind. So
perfect.
So internally, because we're in the UK.
Yeah.
Highly regulated market, in general, lots of regulations. And I've seen that the mindset is very much like, oh, let's make sure this doesn't break things, rather than, oh, let's innovate, let's break things. So there's a more conservative mindset around here, which means that it's easier to start with internal use cases, which is not inherently. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's more cautionary, which means that based on what I've seen, external facing use cases are still a bit behind because of regulations. So internally, I've seen mostly 2 things. So tools for software engineering, okay, I think they're working well. The Copilot solutions, the Windsurf, the Cursor, the GitHub Copilot now, and all the agentic platform. So as much as people complain about the fact that AI can't think, another team, I wouldn't be I wouldn't pay attention too much to that, because I've realized that as long as your question is not shit, you can get a nice 60-70% of a feature you want to build, and rather than spending a lot of time in creating code, you can get a solid foundation in seconds, and then you start iterate towards that. And in the software engineering world, this might be a bit of a prediction, but I'm realizing on myself as well, I'm not a software engineer anymore. I'm more of a delegator, or I'm maybe a sort of super senior staff software engineer who delegates things rather than directly writing them. But I have the ability to understand what's going on. So if when the AI inevitably makes mistakes, you can address it. But this junior engineer, senior engineer, personal relationship is so powerful, because it's true that you can build things in a fraction of the time.
How do you think that's going to impact potentially juniors starting their career now?
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different job.
It's a completely different job. So my idea is that the software engineer will become sort of delegator again. At least this is what companies would push in the future, because you just write code faster. But I'm not saying that it'll become completely autonomous at the same time, not in the short midterm at least. I don't think so. So the junior engineer is still the one who will become the senior engineer in order to be able to delegate and review and make sure everything is in place. And here, the foundational knowledge of software engineering is still crucial, so you still need to study to become one. But I agree that it's difficult now because of the FOMO, I would say. I've seen that people think, I'm not going to hire a junior engineer anymore. I'm going to just hire mid to senior engineers. But at some point, the mid engineers will finish, and you will all be left with junior engineer on the market. So inevitably, you will hire junior engineers. It's trickier, yeah, but I don't see a nullification of the demand in that market, because at the moment you still need someone to look at the code and says this is wrong, fix it, and shapes the roadmap, both from a code perspective and also from a product perspective.
I feel like it's similar to the narrative we had a few years back with frameworks versus native language. Everybody, like sort of older engineers, claimed that new engineers didn't know how to write code because they were so reliant on frameworks. And now it's kind of gone from frameworks to AI producing code, and it's, they don't know how to write code because they're just using AI. You still need that foundational knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison. Yeah, and I think there's also, humanly speaking, the first time I started using AI, I was so proud of saying, I'm just going to use the tab, the indentation. I want to run my code. I need to make sure. So there's a lot of people are proud in general. So there's also that tendency, and the fact that they say, oh, AI will never be able to produce code as beautiful as mine. No, I mean, with your guidance, it will produce code as beautiful as yours. And I agree that it's the same thing. But I would say that this is more a question of a matter of time. Time will pass and people will get more used to use AI because company will enforce it as well.
Yeah, I think if you look at any tech advancements, like my dad at one point refused to use online banking because he just didn't believe it was safe, and now he's happy to use it. It just takes time for people to accept that change.
Absolutely. Yeah. My dad still doesn't use it.
Don't trust those computers.
No, absolutely.
Awesome. NutriCoach.
NutriCoach.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that.
I must start from the problem because of the things I've said, of course. Otherwise, it'd be a really bad podcast. So, the problem at the moment that we see, me and my amazing founder, Eden, is that if you want to be happier from a nutrition perspective, if you want to be happy and you want to enjoy the food, but at the same time, you want to be careful to don't overindulge. The only self-service way to do this at the moment in the market is calorie counting. However, at the same time, that's so a problem. It's a huge problem because people really don't have time to count calories. It requires a lot of technical knowledge in order to understand which food you have to put, and it takes a lot of mental effort. And to some extent, customers told us, it removes the enjoyment part of the food. So you just start to see the food as a fuel rather than something that you love and you like and you share with your friends. And I'm saying that also because I'm Italian.
I was going to say, as an Italian, that must hurt.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. That's why I tried it and it didn't go well. So, especially in the UK and in London, where people are always on the go and they need to find a solution. They don't have a solution where they can see, okay, I feel great with myself because everything is sort of under control. If I overindulge, it's not going to take weeks and so on. So we realize that people have all of those problems, and there's no solution at the moment that can solve it. So NutriCoach is the way to solve it, rather than you telling MyFitnessPal or whatever, counting calorie up, what you're gonna eat. NutriCoach tells you what to eat, and this is possible because of, I have to say, AI, and the potentially revolutionary capabilities that we're building now and we're evolving, looking and talking with customers over time. So the idea is you tell NutriCoach what you like and what you don't like, and your lifestyle, especially the brands you love, the coffee you take at Starbucks, the supermarket you shop in, your goals, which is really important. Are you someone who wants to have a better relationship with food? Are you someone who at the beginning wants to lose weight? Are you someone who just wants structure in their life? You can have many issues with your nutrition at the moment. And based on all of these, you get literally suggestions. So you get things you can eat based on what you like. You can swap things on your plan. So what you get at this point in time is a plan that you can follow and you can change anytime. All the calories and macros are counted for you. And the scientific approach we're taking is flexible dieting. That's the first thing. So we're merging flexible dieting and lifestyle and flexibility in someone's life in order to create this unique experience that allows you to enjoy the food and have everything under control. And if one day on a Friday you overindulge, because it's part of life, right? We provide the right educational piece to say, don't worry, it's just one day. It's not finished.
I like it. And I think from conversations I'm having at the moment with people about new products or AI solutions that are looking to be built, the common theme for a lot of these ones that are exciting is making people's lives easier. There might be solutions out there, like you mentioned, calorie counting apps, etc., but it requires such heavy user input that people don't stick to it. It doesn't work. It's not solving the problem.
Yeah, exactly. It starts with the 3 weeks, and then you say, okay, I can't do it anymore. And I think you nailed a good point, which is making people lives easier. That's a sort of holistic use case that software and automation have been providing for a while, and comfort is, of course, the benefit, right? So we want to allow people to be comfortable and thrive in life and focus on things they love. I would say that's the ultimate goal. So in life, I want to be happy. I want to do things that I love. I don't want to count my calories, but I want to be in shape. I want to feel good with myself. I think this is the good of AI, as you said.
What's been the hardest part so far of building it?
Oh, everything. So I'm a techie, I'm a builder. Again, when I'm not working on NutriCoach, I am an artificial intelligence architect, which sounds really nerdy and techy, because it is. You still look at the business, of course, but I've been building for my whole life. So I didn't know everything else when I started. Especially, I didn't know about how to phrase the problem. And the solution is talk to customers. So that's the first and most important thing that I'm also applying externally to NutriCoach. So whenever someone says, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to increase revenue and so on, what's the problem? to solve? What's the specific problem? And in order to answer the question, speak to customer. And that's really difficult for many reasons, because for a human being who's not used to speak to so many people at the beginning, that might feel very a big challenge. And also extract the right information from them, because they don't know what they don't know. What they don't know what the real problem is. And you don't know either to some extent. You have an hypothesis that you want to validate. So it's the creation of that problem framing and listening to the customers. You don't speak, you just listen and ask questions, and getting the right data. That to me is the most fascinating and challenging thing at the moment. Because once you analyze, once you know what the people need, it's easier to come up with a solution if you have the right knowledge. So as a techie, once I know the problem, I can try this, I can try that. But it's not about locking for 2 years. And if I want to compare this to an enterprise, it's not giving 10 millions of funds and saying you build this for 3 years and then you release it. It's not like that. It's you validate an hypothesis, you talk with the customer, you get that, and you create a small experiment that you do in fairly little time, and you validate it and you iterate this. The other very difficult thing is team.
Yeah.
Your founder is your second family. I speak more with Eden, my founder, than with my family, and it's important that you're transparent and you communicate in a very, very clear and fair way to some extent.
Okay. You mentioned there about sort of building small and testing and iterating. I think it's an approach we like to use with any AI projects, is almost that prototyping.
Yeah.
So you might think you've solved the problem. Let's not spend millions scaling up a huge solution only to find out you haven't. You can get rapid prototypes nowadays so quickly for AI. How important do you think that approach is?
Crucial, foundational, and all the other objectives that you have in your mind that reflects this. That's the first thing you want to do in an enterprise. You don't want to throw out money. You don't want to throw out millions. You want to come up with a small cross-functional team of 3-4 people are more than enough. Always involve the final user from the beginning to the very end. Start with an hypothesis, talk to the customer, come up with a solution, be able to measure that solution. So you want to, it's like, how do we measure it? Most of the time is you give it to the customer and you come up with a metric like accuracy or whatever, depending on the use case. And then you see what's wrong, because the first iteration is very difficult that things will be wrong. And you do that until you don't meet a goal that you've found, that you come up with. Like if you, for example, if you're creating a simple use case where you want to chat with your data, right? The chat with your enterprise data, then what is a good metric to assess in order to release it to the whole company, for example? Well, simple thing that I did in the past is to use accuracy, right? You got a data set of questions and answers, and you say, I want to make sure we get a 90% of accuracy. The other thing is user feedback. Does the user like it? Is it easy to use? So qualitative feedback from the user, that's also crucial. And you do that until you don't meet your goals. Again, 3-4 people, or very, very, really small amount of money to put in. I would say that the most difficult part of this is making sure that team is not full of dependencies in the company. This is what I've realized, especially if we're talking about an enterprise where the small team is independent in a way, but in order to, because of regulations, because you deal with data many times, you get a lot of issues from a technical perspective. Say, oh, if I want to use this data, I need to create this environment that makes the experiment safe. You need to do it, but work on that sandbox environment.
Almost like a little innovation hub.
Innovation hub, yeah, exactly. So not only from a team perspective, also from a tech perspective, put yourself in a situation that you have as less dependencies as possible in your team, in the company, so that in 2 weeks you can already create something.
And also, if anything does go wrong, it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, that's also very, very important.
I think, like, I know I use different AI solutions, whether it's ChatGPT or other, a lot. How dependent do you think we're becoming, and what are the potential negative impacts of that? Obviously, there's loads of positives of AI, but what are the potential negatives?
Well, look at this as in the same way I look at my mobile phone. It's always in our pocket. It's always in my pocket at the moment. It's always here. I think about I should receive an email. I need to check it and so on. I see the future whereby the hardware will also change to accommodate this AI. I don't know if you've seen now. They've tried to create like would you monitor less solutions whereby you speak to the AI directly.
Was it the one that claimed to be like your friend? Was it a necklace or something?
Yeah.
Crazy.
The
It's
ring.
too far,
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll go there eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe it was not. It was too early to be too revolutionary in a way. But I see a mobile phone that has no interface, or just a
Well,
blank
that's the
screen.
rumors, isn't it? With, I can't remember his name now, but rejoining from, was it OpenAI's joining somebody, one of the guys?
Oh yeah, the employees.
Yeah, they've started a new company or a new venture with huge amounts of money.
Oh yeah.
And it's rumored that that's what it's going to be, is a screenless device.
Screenless device, yeah, exactly. So this makes you feel that it will provide so much comfort, and I think this is the bad part of AI, that you just have a virtual assistant in your pocket every time, and you rely on that. So rather than Googling, or in the past, rather than reading the newspaper, you say what happened today, what's the forecast for tomorrow. Again, good or bad. Good because now you can focus on the things you love. Bad because I think that we as human beings are lazy by default, and this can go really wrong, really wrong. I can imagine a future myself laying on the bed all the time and just asking people, and again, living my life through that device.
Driverless cars.
Drivers, yeah, exactly. So
Like, we
minimum
won't have to
movement.
do anything soon.
That's the risk, right? Comfort also means, in the bad way, that you do nothing in your life. The focus of your life to make your things happen are just doing nothing. And I think that's what we need to avoid.
How do we do that?
I have no idea.
I thought you solved all of our problems then.
I have no idea. I think actually it will happen whereby people will become more and more dependent on this feature, and at some point it's the excitement of doing things for a lot of people will vanish, and I'm sure that there will be a new trend here saying, okay, this is wrong and so on. So I think the world will shape itself in order to address this in a way, I hope at least.
Yeah, I think even if you look at phones, like years ago we were so excited when the new iPhone came out, and the next release you were so excited for. Now it's kind of, it's a new iPhone.
Exactly. We're so used to the dopamine level.
You just get so used to it. I guess we'll just get used to this as well. What would you say are some of your predictions for the next couple of years from an AI perspective?
We are all doomed now. That's not true. Yeah, I think inevitably jobs will mutate. So a few jobs will not be here in X years. And I'm saying this because I'm the comparison with the revolution. I still think, again, it's a revolution. It takes time to like concretize it. But in the same way things happened in the industrial revolution, whereby people would not do a lot of manual jobs, the same will happen. So inevitably, it's true that I would say even many jobs will disappear. New ones will be created. Okay, so my hope, actually, for the good part of AI is that those new jobs will require, from a good perspective, a higher level of knowledge, right? In order to be sure things don't break or creating the AI and so on. The other problem is maybe there'll be fewer jobs. So I don't know what's going to happen, but definitely jobs will disappear and new ones will be created. I don't know what happened. I would say that's my only prediction, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could people prepare for that, I guess? We can kind of predict some jobs, like you said, it's going to be very manual, repetitive ones probably that get replaced or enhanced by AI. How can people prepare for that?
Study, get knowledge, get excited, try new things, find what you really like, and apply it. And I'm sure that with that you can do pretty much anything. You won't have problems. In general, the problem, as you said, right, the main problem is that manual tasks that don't require a lot of brain power will disappear. So if I can say the solution is just get that level of expertise. And now we have the internet, and now the AI allows us to get information in a very, very easy way, in an easier way compared to before. So it's easy to just go on YouTube or whatever you want to do and get skilled. The thing is, not everyone wants to do it. So what I would recommend is find something that you like. You have the whole world in your hands. You can do it, I'm sure about it. Experiment, try new things, study, and I'm sure that you will be fine.
That's good advice. I think we've definitely seen it when you're trying to bring in AI solutions. There's people quite scared almost and try and hoard their knowledge. They refuse to use new tools.
Yeah.
But if you don't accept that and change the way you work, you're probably going to be the last one left behind anyway.
Resistance to change is a problem in general. If you don't adapt, it's very difficult for you in this world, at least.
Yeah. And what would be your advice to whether it's individuals or organizations looking at AI for the first time? How best to approach that? Because AI is something that's been around for years and years and years. It's obviously recently gathered more attention from the whole world and is probably a bit misunderstood. So how would you approach it for somebody going at it the first time?
So for a company, say for an executive, I would say first understand if you are willing to invest in AI, if you're willing to be an early adopter, or you just want to see and buy rather than build in a way, right? So you have to put yourself in that, you have to ask yourself that question first. If you actually want to start and build and be an early adopter, then read the Lean Startup book first and understand how to do that in an iterative way. So frame the problem, get your users, the end users, get someone really skilled in AI and everything that I said before, basically. And educate the whole company. That's really important as well. If you are a solo enthusiast or someone who wants to build AI or wants to do something with it, as a builder rather than a user, you have so many courses. You just start somewhere. I can't even suggest one course because there are so many that it's impossible for you to not get the right start. You just do it. Okay. If you are a user, try it. If you care about your privacy, I don't know how to answer that question then. But if you're just a user, then again, you have imagine why it can be useful, what can be useful for you. Understand your problems and see how they can be addressed by using AI in your day-to-day life. I know that many people use it just to, my friend, what was he doing? Now with NutriCoach, people are trying to use ChatGPT to get recommended things, right? At some point, it doesn't work anymore because of the user experience at the limited memory, let's say. But people are getting recommended food and recipes. People are even using it to get emotional advice. And good and bad again, but it seems that it works for some extent. It makes people feel better in a way. I don't want to touch that argument because it's so long and maybe we need another podcast for it, but it solves issues. That's a fact.
And we're not going to get into it, you're right, but it is interesting. I've seen some research that people are more willing to be open and honest with AI because you try and impress other humans, whereas the AI you're kind of just brutally honest with.
Yeah.
You're not trying to lie and twist the truth to make them feel impressed because you can't impress a machine.
And it's a machine, so you have less, you're less scared to open up your feelings, emotions to a machine. Yeah, that happens. That's happening.
Awesome. Well, Sergio, I've really enjoyed this chat today.
Likewise, Jack.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks to you.